Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone can hear me in the chat, just push 1. Get a confirmation. All right. Reigning woman, good evening to you. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 323, Space and Technology. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson for stopping through. Appreciate your presence here, brother. Darkside 90, what's going on? D Felder, what's going on? Richard Victor Dixon in the building. Faber, what's going on? If you want to join the panel, there should be a link in the chat. When you're in the waiting room, just raise your hand so that we can acknowledge you. We can advance you to the panel. Everyone is welcome to join and participate in these live streams now. Also, as a reminder, we're still doing IT mentorship and IT coaching. So if you want to get into IT, and you need a mentor or a coach to get into IT, we can provide you some assistance. Just drop your email in the chat, or at the end of the live stream, put it in the comment section and say you want to be mentored or you need some coaching. If you're trying to transition from one IT career to another, we can actually help you out with that as well. So that's part of what we do here. Also, as a reminder, Reigning Woman in the chat is also a life coach. So if you need some counseling or life coaching, she can provide that for you. Just make sure you go to her channel and you subscribe to her channel in the process. Megan Montana, what's going on? Just One, what's up? There's a document in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. We cite all sources here, so and we're going to get started. Who just joined the panel?
Yes.
Who just joined?
Hey, it's Darkside.
What's going on, bro?
How you doing? It's my first time. I appreciate you letting me on.
Hey, no problem, man. Let me knock out this first article and then we'll get into it. All right, this first one is from Forbes.com. Self-driving startup Embark raises $70 million, opens freight transfer hubs for robot big rigs. Embark Trucks, a self-driving tech firm created by two 20-something Canadian computer scientists, just landed $70 million in new funding, its biggest investment round to date, and is opening the first cargo transfer hubs for its growing fleet of robotic semis. The San Francisco-based startup is among a wave of companies, including Alphabet's Waymo, Too Simple, Starsky Robotics, Kodiak, and Ike, that see commercial opportunities to apply to the same type of technology developed for autonomous robo taxis to long-haul trucks ferrying goods across country. 3 years after college, friends Alex Rodriguez, 23, and Brandon Moak, 24, founded Embark. The company has raised a total of $117 million, including the latest round. It operates 13 18-wheelers and has 70 employees. Alex and Brandon are among the highest potential founders we have partnered with, says Pat Grady, a partner at Sequoia Capital, a past Embark investor that participated in its Series C funding. We are thrilled to double down on our commitment to Embark as they extend their lead in autonomous trucking. Tiger Global Management led the round, joined by venture firms DCVC, Y Combinator, SV Angel, Maven Ventures, Omer's Ventures, and Mubadala Ventures. Compared to navigating through dense urban areas, designing software, sensors, and hardware for trucks to drive themselves on highways is generally easier. Owing the absence of traffic lights, complex turns, complicated intersections, pedestrians, bicycles, e-scooters, and other challenges. There's also a more pressing need for such technology owing to a shortage of human drivers that the American Trucking Association, at more than 60,000 currently. Rodriguez says the funding will be used to add staff and trucks to Embark's fleet, which already generates revenue hauling commercial loads between suburban Los Angeles and Arizona. For now, with human drivers at the wheel, ready to take control from the automated systems, when necessary. Like its competitors, Embark's goal is to reach so-called level 4 automated driving capability on the highway, the point at which human intervention isn't required under standard driving conditions. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I will highlight this portion right here that identifies automation for autonomous vehicles. So level 0 is no automation at all. Level 1 means that there's some form of driver assistance. That means that there's some form of mechanism within your vehicle that helps you stay in control. And then level 2 is partial automation. So this means that you could take your hands off the wheel and for a temporary bit of time, and that would actually keep the vehicle under control. Ford did this a few years ago. I think it was the Ford Escape, if I remember correctly. Level 3 is conditional automation. So this is also where Ford follows in, where your vehicle can parallel park itself. High automation is level 4. So this is where you have a steering wheel on a vehicle, but there's no driver. What the hell just happened? And level 5 is full automation. That means there's no human being at all. All software based. Darkside, you got anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean it's fascinating. I really started hearing about the automation and AI through you guys and BGS, and I've just been looking into it more and more and how how it affects so many different fields, pretty much throughout. Everything from, like you said, in the trucking business, healthcare. It's crazy.
Yeah, these are the fields that that's going to be hiring in the next year and a half. If not, they're already hiring now, but it's going to be an explosion of opportunities come out for these sort of roles. And we always talk about, brother, you might have to mute your mic. We always talk about getting into this sort of field and being part of the fourth industrialized emerging economies and technology, and the opportunities for these sort of roles need a level of education and skill set that's going to come from certain platforms. And we talk about Udacity because Udacity has an autonomous systems nano degree. So a nano degree is a level of education for a specific emerging technology that is 6 months or less. So what we're looking at right now is Udacity.com and their School of Autonomous Systems. So what Embark does and Too Simple and Waymo, all of these guys came out of this sort of most of their employees and probably themselves came out of this sort of camp of Udacity, where you're looking at these sort of programs that contribute to a larger system of autonomous vehicles or autonomous design and development. You need to know C++. And what you're also going to learn is sensor fusion engineer, self-driving car engineer, intro to self-driving cars, nano degree. So you more than likely you would start off with this, and the topics that are covered: statistics, linear algebra, C++, calculus, and controls. And you also have robotic software engineer, flying car and autonomous flight engineer. So obviously you're going to start out with the intro to self-driving cars nano degree. Next enrollment of classes starts on October 9th, which is next week, next Friday, I think, and if not next Sunday. And that's where you get started. So for less than for less than a for less than a Louis Vuitton pair of sneakers or whatever it is, snakeskin Jordans, man, you can get yourself a nice amount of education that's going to foster your future. These sort of roles are going to be around for the next 50 to 60 years. This is a market that's not going to go away. So what I'll do is I'll drop the link in the chat. And those of you who want this, you can go sign up on your own.
Hey, Mike V, I don't know if you heard about they have AIs now in optometry and ophthalmology now that can diagnose diabetic retinopathy, which is just an eye condition people with diabetes get, is as accurate as the optometrist, the physician, the doctor. So I was like, that's crazy. So it's it's advancing so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it only takes well, see, roles like that are real specific, and if it can be automated, expect that it would be. Usually in the healthcare field, you don't want to actually replace doctors and nurses and stuff like that. You want to actually leverage the technology to empower them, right, from a personal assistance standpoint. Just like you can't just throw out autonomous vehicles on the road. Who's going to buy them, right? Also, the environment is not structured yet. It's not ready yet to receive that sort of technology. Although they have come up with these these automated advancements for what you were just talking about, most hospitals are not going to adopt that as of yet. Maybe not for the next 10 years or so, because it's just not, their infrastructure is not there yet. The thing about hospitals is that they're very vulnerable to cyber attacks, all of them. Even your most advanced ones in the United States, they're just vulnerable because the infrastructure is old. They have not really their life cycle development is usually long, very long in the tooth, usually somewhere between 5 years, 3 to 5 years, which is really long in the technology world. So you probably won't see that for a good seven years or so at best. Right now, we're talking about it, but if the life cycle is 3 to 5 years, then expect by 5 years at best that technology to be taking place. So you're talking by 2026, 2027. That sounds about right for that sort of adoption of technology.
Yeah, I think right now they're mainly using it for, because I'm in the healthcare field, that mainly using it for like mundane stuff, like calling patients, like routine stuff that that you really don't need somebody doing.
Yeah, they can replace humans. They will at that level. Because my pharmacy will call me based on the prescription that I need,
Right.
and will tell me when to pick it up. And then you push a few 1 or 2, or push 0 to speak with a rep or something like that. That function has already been automated. So the next step would be to actually automate the some of the pill-based prescriptions. Right?
Well,
You
oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying they call you and to remind you of your appointment, or like when your appointment is and stuff like that. So yeah, they're definitely doing that.
Yeah, that was unheard of maybe 10 years ago. Back in 2008, they wouldn't have done something like that. If they did, it was very janky, right? The robotic voice wasn't really there. Now it sounds like a human being, right? I heard either Google or Amazon is supposed to be working with Cardi B to use her voice for the next Alexa or the next Google Home.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson too.
Yeah. So they're looking for that. They're looking for human interaction, even with the robots.
Right.
I remember Doug DeMauro did a video review about a couple weeks ago with the Suzuki. I forget the name of that vehicle right now, but basically that vehicle's language system would change based on the region. So if it was Indian, it had an Indian accent. So when you talk to it, the response was back in Indian. If it was British, you would hear a thick, strong British accent when it responded back to you. So that's where they're going with a lot of this. So they've moved away from the janky robotic voice, all the way down to a very strong human voice. All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from the Scientific American. Don't junk that EV battery, it might power a town. The Department of Energy is aiming to get ahead of looming recycling problem from electric car batteries. The Department of Energy has begun to sort out the nation's big recycling problem. What to do with batteries used by electric cars. Yesterday, it awarded 15 checks in the amount of $67,000 to the winners of a contest that focused on making sure the batteries don't end up in the landfill. They got the prizes for finding ways to collect used electric vehicle batteries, to efficiently extract valuable materials from them, or to find second life uses for batteries that can still store electricity. Daniel Simmons, the head of DOE's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, announced the awards at a meeting of prize winners and industry experts yesterday. The meeting, held here at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, focused on the problems posed by mounting number of EVs. Less than 5% of materials from the EV batteries are being recycled. A number of companies are interested in finding ways to standardize the process, Simmons said. That will be the goal of a second phase of the contest, where prize winners could earn $250,000 to $500,000. A third phase will award winners between $500,000 and $1 million for ideas that can be scaled up to deal with a surge of electric cars. The number of EVs are expected to double by 2025 and quadruple by 2030. We need outside the box ideas. Simmons said in an interview, noting that in the future, the US will become more dependent on the minerals that go into batteries than on fossil fuels. He noted that the most valuable lithium ion battery component, cobalt, must be imported mainly from Congo. Lithium, the lightest known metal, has a variety of non-battery uses, including for some medical treatments. Recycling will also produce nickel and aluminum. Our goal is to keep a lot of the stuff out of the landfill, Simmons explained, pointing out that the goal of the prizes is to stimulate technologies that could recycle as much as 1/3 of the materials needed for the batteries in 2025. You can't do this in your driveway, he added, noting that conventional car owners can replace acid batteries with a pair of pliers. They disconnect the wires and pull the old batteries out of the cars. But in EVs, the extraction process is very different. EV batteries can weigh as much as 1,500 pounds, and they take up most of the space beneath the floorboards. They are expected to last 15 years, roughly the lifetime of the cars. After that, some of them may still have enough life to store renewable energy. Some could be used as a backup power system for buildings, and perhaps when wired together, multiple batteries could be storage units for small towns. There are companies that are also looking at this, Simmons said. In the last decade, DOE, Department of Energy, has resorted to a variety of contests to solve new technology problems. Two prize winners, for example, invented a process in their garage that can generate electricity from ocean waves. More recently, the contests have focused on made in America solar energy solutions and on solar power desalination of seawater. We're trying to find ways where they can move the ball the most, Simmons said. So what's happening here is those, Toyota Prius and Honda hybrid vehicles and stuff like that, those cars in Toyota Camrys, those cars that had these sort of lithium batteries in them, at some point will run their course, especially the ones made in 2003. They should be coming off the road now because their batteries have already reached their age and their life expectancy because they should be 15 years old now. So with that being said, there's a huge market for renewable batteries and what to do with them. And Africa has been looking at how do you power a village. You can still take those EV batteries, especially out of, let's say, 20 or 30 cars, and you can power up a village with 1,000 people in it and have these microgrids. This is the type of stuff that is going to bring in sustainable development goals, SDG, and the millions of dollars. And this is what we call social enterprising, because we're solving an issue that impacts the environment while still making profit and not actually exploiting anybody. Things that ADOS and Africans need to be linking up on and trying to figure out how to benefit best, and cutting out the big capitalist sort of vultures that like to come in and control the grid of the environment like they do in the United States. That doesn't happen over in other countries. Darkside, you have anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, that's amazing. I didn't even know you could reuse these used up batteries. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, these are going to be big industries. Or this is going to be a big industry because batteries have to go somewhere. You can't just drop it off at AutoZone or Advanced Auto Parts or whatever local auto parts shop that you typically would buy your stuff from.
So are they doing this? So like in certain African villages and stuff in rural areas, are they already implementing this stuff?
Yeah, they call them microgrids. In Puerto Rico, this was a hot topic because when Hurricane Maria hit, it smashed the whole entire legacy electrical grid. That system was so antiquated it couldn't even be brought back online, right? So they started using Tesla Powerwall batteries from the Tesla cars, and what they found was that having smaller grids all over the island made more sense to bring electricity back online, right? To bring utility services back online, because the old systems were so bad and so decrepit from 100 years ago, it wasn't even worth it. And this was done by the people on the ground. The United States government actually left them hanging high and dry. So now in Africa, we covered an article about a month or so ago that in Zimbabwe that they're doing the same exact thing. So we know that this is a viable market. Now you take that and you take cryptocurrencies and you think I can take the two, the blockchain, the cryptocurrency, and the batteries and form this microgrid, and I can push out 5,000 watts from these batteries to a small village that only requires 1,000 watts of electricity. I can help those people make a profit and innovate at the same time.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from InsideEVs.com. McCharge. Yes, McDonald's wants to charge your EV. Pump gas is so passe. Gas stations from BP to Shell are introducing electric vehicle chargers. Chains including Wawa, Hy-Vee, and Sheetz have partnered with Tesla on chargers. Even hotels are getting in on the action. So have restaurants like Sonic and Ruby Tuesday. But now, McDonald's is looking to bring electric vehicle charging to its iconic fast food chain. According to Design Boom, McDonald's has grown to become Sweden's largest restaurant chain for electric car charging. After installing its first charging post as early as 2009, the mega chain now has 55 charging stations around the Scandinavian country. The expansion of charging stations continues as McDonald's aims to include charging stations at all its drive-through restaurants. McDonald's has produced its own version of classic parking signs that led the electric car traveler to restaurants' charging stations. In addition to the current price of charging, the signs also show the current price of Big Mac and the Happy Meal, reports Design Boom. So it looks like it's charging them $2.50 for a charge, and 52 francs for a Big Mac, which is kind of interesting.
Man, that just shows you no matter how big you get, you never stop innovating.
Nah, man. Nah,
McDonald's is doing it. I mean, that's the way to go.
Nah, I mean, what they got the automated tellers, point of sale systems inside their McDonald's right now,
Yeah.
and we covered an article last week about McDonald's investing into artificial intelligence. They actually bought a company to automate and leverage artificial intelligence at the drive-through. So that means when you pull up to the drive-through, there's probably an 80-inch flat screen TV displaying all the menu based on the artificial intelligence gathering data to present the best and most popular item being bought at the time that you pull up. So you pull up at 1:30 in the afternoon for lunch. It's going to show you what's trending for food, and it's going to show you, right. So it's all based on demographics, and this is why data science is so important, and why so many ADOS people, Black people, need to really get involved into data science and big data engineering. This is a huge market. We talked about this, I think, the other night. I was at a cybersecurity company early in the year, and they had a bunch of data scientists there. They were making 150 grand, and these were millennials.
So, a data? You said a data science analysis? What'd you say?
Data scientists.
So, how do they get these data? Because I mean, I know you got these companies like Google and like they always accumulating data. So how do these data scientists? Where do they get this data from?
they collect data from data lakes. So a data lake is data that gets pumped into a certain silo that is generated. So no matter what you do on Google, Android, Apple, iPhone, your tablet, all of these sort of electronic devices that are connected to a grid generate data and will constantly pump this data somewhere, whether it's in the cloud or it's into the edge, somewhere it's going to be pumped. Companies pay lots and lots of money to get access to that data. Google,
Okay.
Facebook, they're all generating data. Even the porn websites are generating lots and lots of data, and they're selling that data off. Right. So companies forklift that generate this data, forklift it, and then serve it to the next bestseller, and that's how that's moving. And the reason why this part is important is because Africa has 1 billion people. By 2050, 2060, they're talking about Africa is going to have at least 2 billion people. So that's a lot of data that's going to be generated, and it becomes a gold mine, so to speak, for big data analytics. So that's why I said Black people need to really be focused on data science.
Wow.
What's going on, Nicole? I think Nagon's tied up right now.
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's going on, bro?
Man, pretty good. I'm just in transit right here, so
okay.
You know, I'm gonna be listening in for a minute, but I'm on my way back to the crib, but I'm listening to you guys, so I'll chime in when appropriate. Carry on, fellows. Carry on.
All right. All right, let me get to this next article real quick. All right, this one is from Jalopnik. People using Tesla's new smart summon feature are already running into trouble, and it's hard to be shocked. Just a few days ago, Tesla announced their new version 10 software update, which included such things as the ability to play Cuphead and watch Netflix while in park, as well as their new smart summon feature, which frees humanity from the brutal indignity of short walks to their cars in parking lots. As you can imagine, people have been trying out the smart summon feature eagerly, leading to Twitter posts of people discovering that maybe, just maybe, it's not exactly perfect. Smart summon is pretty dramatic. It's always an owner to call from some distance, line of sight only, though, and be ready to stop the 4,000-pound machine you're having drive through the public areas. This is poorly written. Right to you, so your lazy ass doesn't need to walk to the car. Now, I freely admit that Smart Summon does seem pretty cool, and it's by no means an insignificant achievement. It's a very limited form of autonomous driving, as the car drives itself to the owner, and that's a big deal. I also think that Tesla has underestimated the chaos of real-world parking lots and overestimated their technology, neither of which surprises me. Part of the reason I'm not shocked is that in Tesla's own introductory video for the feature, they showed this. Let's just watch this video real quick that they posted of how this works. So basically what they're providing is some form of pastime venture while you sit in your Tesla. I guess it's a game called Cuphead. I don't see the value in that, but here's the real kicker right here. I hope we don't get flagged for this. So from your smartphone, you would actually call your Tesla vehicle, and it would actually come and meet you where you are. So it maneuvers around objects and will allegedly come to meet you where you are. In my opinion, as a tech guy, this is on another level. And I'm saying this because the cybersecurity aspect to this means that these cars are vulnerable to attacks. Let's say, for example, a nation state wanted to, or a threat actor wanted to jam up the GPS of the satellite positioning system so that the car cannot communicate. What then will the car do? If the GPS is being spoofed from a cyber attack, that car may go off the side of the road, or it may go through a crosswalk, or it may go through a railroad stopping and stop itself, and then jam up a train, or even a tractor trailer and jackknife it. There's a whole lot of ways that a bad guy in cybersecurity would actually attack that sort of thing. But it is dope nonetheless.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that potential complication. I was just thinking how like neat that was. So that's a great point.
Yeah, you'll see dudes in Chicago trying to carjack the car even though there's nobody in it. Run your whip, boy. Next thing you know, ain't nobody in there. So you break the window, you get in there, you might find yourself trapped.
Right.
The car may lock its doors and shut down, and you can't get out unless you break the windows or something.
And it should have an automatic call to the police.
That's what it does.
Yep, man, nail them.
Yeah, it has an impact sensor that would actually call for emergency help. There's an E911 based inside those cars because they're 4G connected.
That's sweet.
Yeah, man. So let me get to this next article. But again, like I said before, go to Udacity's website and you will have, the autonomous nanodegree program listed there. You can actually get involved in these sort of things. That's exactly what this is being based out of. Very lucrative markets. All right, this next article is from entrepreneur.com. 7 blockchain-related job opportunities to watch for in 2020. Blockchain technology is becoming one of the hottest skills in the IT market. According to the recent survey published by Deloitte Insights, 86% of respondents agreed that blockchain technology is scalable and will eventually achieve mainstream adoption. Another survey by Upwork, the world's largest freelance network, further confirmed that blockchain is among its cohort's top 20 fastest growing skills. There are many tech giants looking for candidates with blockchain expertise, but you have to be armed with the necessary know-how in order to make a reasonable living working in what's still a niche industry. Here are 7 of the hottest, most hireable blockchain skills to look for in the year ahead. Content writing. The demand for blockchain writers is dramatically increasing, but this particular job opportunity isn't something you just jump into. You need to have a deep knowledge about blockchain technology, and most importantly, the right technical skill set to create educational copy about products and services that's also accessible. Other writing opportunities surrounding blockchain include landing pages, blog content, news, and white papers. So this is what Lionel does. For those of you who don't know, Lionel, part of the Black Brain Trust, actually does content writing. He has his Fool with Money channel that you also should be subscribed to, and he has a blockchain study group that he does once a week. Development. A recent study estimated that the demand for blockchain developers who are skilled in JavaScript, C++, Python, cryptography, and machine learning grew by 115% between 2016 and 2017. Every organization needs a proficient blockchain developer who will help them integrate blockchain technology to improve their services to their clients, both existing and prospective. Meanwhile, here are the most preferred skills organizations are looking for: expert in C++, .NET, MVC, HTML, Visual Studio, Microsoft SQL Server, Ajax, SOAP, REST, Agile, Scrum, Neutral Network, and Xcode. The average hourly rate is typically between $60 and $100. So these jobs are paying 150 grand right out the gate. Web designer, crypto trading, crypto community manager, and engineer.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to say, with a job like that, since there's a lot of coding, there is some object-oriented programming involved in that as well. Multi-threading and some of those kind of skill sets you're gonna have to have. You're gonna have to be kind of ramped up. You're gonna have to be a player. But man, the money is just laying there for you. I don't care what you look like or who you are. If you have those skill sets, you're going to work.
Yep.
Heavy.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Engineer. With the increasing rate of blockchain integration, many companies are looking for engineers who are skilled in spotting company tech needs and creating a blockchain app to address them. To easily get hired, you need to have a high level of skills in Java, Ripple, Hyperledger, Fabric, Solidity, Oracle Identity, Bitcoin, and database management. Average salary is likely to range between 60,000 and 81,000. Legal consultant. Considering the high level of uncertainty surrounding the blockchain industry, it's no longer news that there is a need for qualified legal consultants who can provide advice on structuring a legal framework for ICO, STO, TGE, and other developments that are now under great regulatory scrutiny. To get hired, you don't have to be a tech specialist, but you must have a corresponding degree, license, and basic knowledge about blockchain to protect companies from all legal issues. Average annual salaries characteristically vary from $80,000 to $150,000. This is an actual legitimate role because I met with a blockchain lawyer back in August, and she worked for the federal government in regulatory finance, basically Sarbanes-Oxley and FISMA, FedRAMP, and all those type of regulatory standards that were in place. She basically is writing the blockchain blockchain white papers for the government, and she makes a considerable amount of money doing this. So we talked about this several times in the past, but we can't stress enough that this is a part of digital transformation. So talked about Udacity before, and I'll point back to them again. I believe that they have. All right, here it is right here. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, this one is from udacity.com, blockchain developer, become a blockchain developer. Demand for blockchain developers is skyrocketing. In this program, you'll work with the Bitcoin and Ethereum protocols, build projects for real world applications, and gain the essential skills for a career in this dynamic space. So estimated time is 4 months at 10 hours a week. Enrollment is by October 8th. Prerequisites, object-oriented programming, which is what Nagone 11 said just a few minutes ago. You need to be have some form of literacy in object-oriented programming. So you're going to go over blockchain fundamentals, Ethereum smart contracts, tokens, and dApps, decentralized applications, blockchain architecture, decentralized applications with autonomous smart contracts and oracles, and a capstone at the end. So you're talking 4 months, 10 hours a week, and less than $2,000 for a class like this. You really can't go wrong with this. I don't know. You know, it's the price of a flat screen and the Xbox One and the PS4 and other non-essential items that Black people seem to be spending frivolously. No need to go to a brick and mortar college to get this sort of education. You can get it online now.
Mike V, what are the prereqs for that? Did it say?
The prereqs for it would be you have to know something about object-oriented programming. So you need to take a class on Intro to Computer Science, CS 101. You need to take that. Once you take that, then you can move to CS 102, and then you may take up CS 120 after that. So those are like 3 classes, main classes you need to take in order to take these sort of programs.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yep. And for those of you listening, CS 101 has been posted on YouTube multiple times. I think it's about 36 hours long. If you look on YouTube, I think Harvard and a couple other, I think MIT might have theirs posted on YouTube as well. You can actually if you can sit through those. I always recommend at least 90 minutes a day consumption. Anything more than that would actually melt your brain. It's just too much. At least from my opinion. I know Asians spend at least 4 hours studying a day, but that's their culture. Black culture is not like that. You will find yourself going nuts, and it's just not, to me, it's not feasible to consume all of that information at once, because you can't really retain it.
Yeah, I need to tell my younger brothers about that. They're in IT, so I don't know if they know about this blockchain. Yes.
Yeah, we did a whole entire hangout on fourth industrialized opportunities. I think like last year or something like that. But all of this information is still relevant. So we'll probably do another tech talk maybe on Saturday or something like that, addressing this type of stuff as we go into the new year. All right, this one is from Forbes.com. U.S. House passes bill requiring study of blockchain technology. Just talked about this. Last Thursday, the Advancing Innovation to Assist Law Enforcement Act passed in the House of Representatives. The bill requires the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, to conduct a study on the use of blockchain, AI, and other technologies by the agency and provide a report to the House Financial Services Committee and the Senate Banking Committee. The Senate received the bill from the House on Monday, where it was referred to the Senate Banking Committee. Representative Anthony Gonzalez sponsored the bill with co-sponsors Representative Tom Emmer and Representative Ben McAdams. The bill will require the director of FinCEN to conduct a study on the status of implementation and use of blockchain, artificial intelligence, and other technologies by the agency, how to leverage these technologies to make FinCEN's data analysis more efficient and effective, and how to utilize the tech to more actively analyze and disseminate the information it collects to provide investigative leads to federal, state, and tribal law enforcement officials. FinCEN would be required to provide a report to the House Financial Services Committee and Senate Banking Committee on findings and determinations made in the study, best practices or significant concerns, and how blockchain and other technologies could be used to fight financial crimes, and make any policy recommendations to Congress. Representative Patrick McHenry, the House Financial Services Committee ranking member, during the debate on the House floor noted the legislation takes the first step to revolutionize the way law enforcement works to create and stop criminal activity in the financial services industry, including potential terrorist threats using artificial intelligence, blockchain, and other emerging technologies. This is a fintech bill. This is a technology bill. It drives them to utilize the most advanced computing and the most advanced technology anywhere in the world and best practices when it comes to data analysis and use. So we talked about this before, maybe about a month or so ago. Africa, Nigeria in particular, had some form of meeting about blockchain, and they talked about blockchain being a pan-Africanist tool that can liberate the continent. This is what they're referring to blockchain and some of this fourth industrialized emerging tech as. They said specifically that it is a tool of pan-Africanism, and that blockchain would liberate the continent from all of its woes of inadequacies and lagging of technology. So that's the way the continent is looking at it. We know that the United States government is looking at it now. They've already have a bill on the Senate floor. This is what they're doing. And we also talked about just the last article, the 7 blockchain jobs that's going to be popping in 2020. Most ADOS people have an opportunity to get to this because the H-1B visas have been practically null and void because of the Trump administration. So they're looking to hire, they're looking to fill these minority quotas. They're looking to fill it with Black faces. These are jobs that's going to pay anywhere between 100 to 150 to 200 grand. I had a call from New York earlier this year that offered me a role to come down to New York City at 155 grand a year for a blockchain developer's role or a blockchain engineer role.
You gonna take it?
No, I couldn't take it. I don't work. I'm working cybersecurity. I don't work in the developer aspect. So that's not my field of expertise. But it goes to show you how far they're willing to go if you have a credible background that they think may be applicable to it. And the Gone 11 can attribute to this because he works in the recruiting sector as well. There may be some way to interchange some of your skill sets with something that's coming online. So if you're a mechanic, for example, if you're a power mechanic, a diesel mechanic, you may be able to leverage that mechanical aptitude to autonomous vehicles because you understand how a car works, you understand the fundamentals, but there's no actual engine in there. How do you take a person who has that mechanical aptitude and leverage it towards autonomous vehicles and their maintenance? Huge market that a lot of ADOS is missing out on, especially with these autonomous trucks coming online that we just heard earlier from the other article about Embark. Yeah, they own 18 or was it 36 18 wheelers or something like that that are autonomous, working between California and Arizona. Somebody has to maintain those. Mm-hmm. All right, let me jump to this next article. All right, this one is from TechCrunch.com. Nigeria's CC Hub acquires Kenya's iHub to create Mega Africa Incubator. 2 of Africa's powerhouse tech incubators will join forces. The Nigerian Innovation Center and seed fund CC Hub has acquired Nairobi-based iHub. CC Hub CEO Bosun Tijani confirmed to TechCrunch. The purchase amount is undisclosed, but Tijani and CC Hub will finance the deal out of its real estate project to build a new 10-story innovation center to replace its Herbert Macaulay Way building in Lagos. Details are emerging on how the 2 entities will operate together, but Tijani noted some degree of autonomy. The names will stay the same, iHub will remain iHub. It is a strong brand, but iHub will be supported from the central CC hub, which will help them strengthen what they do, he said. Per the acquisition, Tijani becomes CEO of both organizations, while Nikisa continues as iHub managing director. And iHub's existing programs will remain, according to Tijani, but CC Hub will extend to Kenya some of its existing activities in education, healthcare, and governance. CC Hub will also use iHub addition to expand its investment scope. Will now have access to pipeline in Nigeria, Kenya, and Rwanda, he said. Tijani views the arrangement as a boost to the continent's tech ecosystem. It strengthens our ability to support innovation. iHub and CC Hub coming together makes us stronger. It gives us a chance to attract greater resources and talent, he said. The acquisition joins the two of Africa's most recognized tech hubs. These innovation spaces, accelerators, and incubators, which tally 618 per GSMA stats, have become focal points for startup formation, training, and IT activity on the continent. There are 618 tech hubs on the continent currently. This is a map and a diagram showing where all your tech hubs are happening. Your biggest tech hubs are coming out of South Africa and Egypt. For obvious reasons, Egypt has a lot, straddles the Middle East and Europe for all intents and purposes. So there's a lot of back and forth between across the Suez and over the Mediterranean. We see Nigeria has 85, which is just a little bit more than South Africa. Ghana has at least 25 tech hubs. Kenya has 48. Zimbabwe has 12. Tunisia has surprisingly 29, even though they're politically unstable. And Morocco has 31. So these are, for those who have never been inside of a tech hub is basically a nerd lab. We have several of them up here in Boston. I think Microsoft is probably the biggest tech hub in the state with their nerd center, which is stands for New England Research and Development. It's a massive facility, but it's actually geared towards exactly what these tech hubs in Africa are doing. And I think we need to be getting up on top of these sort of tech hubs in predominantly Black neighborhoods, because then you don't have a brain drain where your most talented Black males are leaving and migrating out, and the community fails because of that. So retaining your talent in your neighborhoods is actually going to bring growth economically and innovatively. There aren't official rankings for Africa's most powerful tech hubs, but if there were, CC Hub and iHub would arguably be up top. This would be based on the size of their membership networks, volume of tech-related programs, startups, incubated partnerships, and global visibility. Founded in 2011 in Lagos, tech synonymous Yaba Suburb, the co-creation hub has grown into a multifaceted innovation center. The organization manages digital skills programs for entrepreneurs and school kids, startup incubation, and a portfolio of investments through its growth capital fund. CC Hub is considered a go-to spot for any tech-related visit to Nigeria. It was Mark Zuckerberg's first public stop on his 2016 Africa trip. While leaving a CC Hub event in 2018, I noticed the Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Osinbajo, and his entourage packing into the elevator. So the reason why you see Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and all these mega tech CEOs going to the continent is because there's Africa is going to be this one big hub of generated data because of all these people. If you get cell phones and smartphones into all these people's hands, like they're starting to see now, it's going to generate a lot of data. A lot of data means a lot of revenue. A lot of revenue means business is good for everybody, because data drives the market now. And what you're seeing here, and we covered this maybe a couple weeks ago, you had young Africans and millennials make up the portion of the continent who can write code. These kids will probably in the next year, if not 2 years, will be able to write code. They're going to run laps around a lot of ADOS, and this is important because there will be no need to import labor to the continent. This next generation is going to be ready to do the jobs that's going to be necessary to carry the continent forward progressively. Anything you want to add to this, Dark Side?
Yeah, just kind of like you were saying, I think that was I was about to jump in and say that's a real big good point, because a vast majority of the African continent, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, the majority of the population is young, like under 21 and stuff like that. So that's true. They're gonna have really, you got a workforce that's ready. You know, they just need the training. And they're ready to. You have a workforce right there, just ready to go.
Yeah, and this is what ADOS needs to be focused on. Need to really be focused on these sort of things. You know, we were talking about this last night, and Johnny Blaze, shout out to Jay Blaze. He was talking about select versus non-select programs, and what you had was a lot of ADOS was focusing on non-select programs. You know, things that really had low return on investment.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I heard that show.
Yeah, so that's important. He's in the academic sector, so he can tell you exactly what what he's seeing with his own eyes, and the data doesn't lie. A lot of Black people are avoiding STEM. They're just completely avoiding it. A very small minority of Black people, I think less than 5%, are enrolled in STEM.
Wow, I didn't know it was that low. That's crazy.
It's very low. We talked about this some months ago. There was a statistic that came out, I think from like Facebook or something like that, that showed that their base does not represent their employee makeup, meaning that there's not a lot of Black people who work at Facebook relative to their demographics that uses technology. And what happens here is Black people consume the technology, but they don't actually drive the technology, right? So everybody knows how to upload content and stuff like that, but they don't actually know how to curate and build platforms that can actually do that. I think the only person in the manosphere right now, or at least two people in the manosphere right now, actually have their own platforms, which is I think Black Spot and what's the other brother?
Avenger.
Yeah,
It's
Black Avenger.
Yeah,
Black Avenger.
Wow, that's disappointing.
Right, and in Africa, you have to think that's 1 billion people. Facebook has 2 billion users. That means half of the user base would even come out of the continent itself. If Black people had their own platform, they wouldn't need Facebook. They wouldn't need YouTube. They would have all your Nollywood movies and your movies coming out of Kenya and your Kinganda, whatever that girl's name is with the booty. They would have their own sort of market to themselves. And if I was these African governments, I would keep these American westernized companies from coming in and siphoning off, the continent itself. They shouldn't be able to come in there without transferring their technology like China forces, Western companies to do.
That's exactly what I was about to say, like China does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so much opportunity on the continent, because you can essentially replicate what's being done here, and you be on the ground floor if you take that over to the continent. That's yeah.
I think Nagone is still in transit, so we'll circle back to him. This next one is from quartz.com. Africa's innovators have to create efficiencies, yes, but also jobs. Even when this is supposed to be a melanated woman, she's still pale skin. I find that to be very interesting. This week, we published the 5th annual Quartz Africa Innovators list. As with previous editions, we had collected over 30 Africans who have dedicated vast amounts of their energies to improving their local communities and countries, and ultimately the wider continent, by focusing on solving one or more problems. The biggest task ahead of the continent is the probability that many African economies will be incapable of supporting and enabling enough businesses to employ the growing numbers of youth. It's a challenge likely to be so huge, countries across Europe are worried about it because governments believe their borders will be even more overwhelmed by young, desperate Africans taking life-threatening journeys to flee their countries and reach a perceived promised land. If you combine the long-running economic inadequacies of many African countries with the youth bulge, and then take into account the likelihood of disproportionate negative impact of climate change on the continent, then you get some sense of true scale of the challenge. Today, depending on which measures you use, the official unemployment rate in South Africa, the continent's most advanced economy, is between 29 and 39.8%. In Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, it was 23% in the third quarter. The question is, how large a role will innovators play to helping to fix these problems? Analysis of the impact of innovation in advanced economies shows it is often about improving inefficiencies, which usually means producing more with fewer resources, chiefly people. Indeed, in advanced economies, concerned with the impact of innovation on jobs has become a cottage industry in itself, with estimates of American jobs lost to automation ranging from as low as 9% as high as 50%. I often think about innovation through the lens of access, value creation, and value distribution, says Ifosa Ojomo, a senior researcher at Harvard Business School's Christensen Institute. For example, efficiency innovations, the ones that cut jobs, are often targeted at existing consumers, and so they reduce costs and increase cash flow for shareholders. These tend to have a devastating impact on the economy. But given the economic scenario and outlook, most African innovators can't afford to think about innovation that way. Ivan Abujeli, a Quartz Africa innovator from our 2016 list and co-founder of Flutterwave and Indela, makes it clear he thinks there's little separation between doing what he does as a tech entrepreneur investor and trying to improve his country or the continent. I don't want entrepreneurship as it's currently used today to be a tool for further impoverishing the poor. Ojomo says what is needed and should be supported are market creating innovations like we've seen with mobile phones. They are different because they target non-consumers. They necessitate the creation of an entirely new value network, he said. Africa as a whole is in the market creation phase. It's why big private equity funds can't find deals. We haven't created the markets yet. This is a very true statement. So the technology is being dumped there, but how do they leverage it if you know, one, you have a brain drain, and two, the skill set is not readily available. But this is where I talked about you know, ADOS backfilling that last mile, right? Those who have access to high levels of education here could actually transfer their skills to the continent and help leverage those innovative inefficiencies to efficiencies, and then drive value distribution and value added.
This is kind of just this kind of just leads on to what we were talking about before. It's just like how much room for innovation there is on the continent. It's just, I mean, it's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying this is. I mean, it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Wide open.
Right, and because the continent is so unique in its own conditions. You have lack of continuous utility, so you don't have consistent electrical grids in place. You have lack of clean drinking water freely available, and then you have droughts all over the place, and then you have a lot of 2/3 of Africa has not been developed. So you have a lot of space for urbanization, and you have a lot of free space for farming. Now, how do you leverage all of that free real estate and urbanization to something more innovative? You know, we were talking about, I think 2 weeks ago, about tiny houses. Tiny houses are growing big over on the continent because they're so structured in a way that they can just be dropped inside of a village and be set up in a matter of hours. So you're talking about, you know, in little as 90 minutes, you can drop a tiny house right off the back of a pickup truck and set it up and start creating villages almost overnight. And they're self-sustaining, right? So they're not actually killing the environment that's already there. But Africa has a huge sanitation issue because they don't have a whole lot of
sewage systems.
Not just sewage, but a way to manage trash. Right. So they kind of just throw trash into a hole, and it just sits there and it piles up over years. And now you got people living inside a dump site, because it's not their fault. The government hasn't provided the necessary infrastructure. But how do you move all that trash, or do you move the people first and then move the trash? But those are all ideas that are going to come out of something, a deeper discourse on innovation.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, let me get to this next article. All right, this one is from Fox News. NASA says 1969 moon landing lab to be demolished next year. The building where the crew of Apollo 11 was quarantined following their historic moon landing 5 decades ago will be torn down in 2020 and replaced by an energy-efficient building, NASA said Tuesday. The Lunar Receiving Laboratory at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, was purpose-built in 1967 to house Neil Armstrong and his crew after they returned from the moon, until NASA could determine that they had not contracted any infectious diseases. The crew was quarantined for 3 weeks while NASA scientists began studying their first set of lunar rocks there. The building has become dilapidated and is now beyond repair, the Houston Chronicle reported Tuesday. Since the last flight of Apollo program in 1972, the building has been used specifically for projects relating to astronaut health, but a 2015 economic analysis determined that the historic building structure and electrical problems can't be fixed. Dallas-based firm HDR Architecture has given a $5.7 million contract to design the lab's replacement. I just hate to see what this building represents and what we did here 50 years ago go away, said Judy Alton, a curator at the Space Center. Johnson's historic preservation officer, Sandra Tetley, said she intends to save the original stairs, pillars, and walkways, as many pieces of equipment inside the building as possible. But it's a shame to lose the building, Tetley said. Everett Gibson, an emeritus senior scientist at Johnson, worked in the lab during the Apollo mission 12 through 17. Just months after celebrations to mark the 50th anniversary of the first lunar footsteps by Apollo 11 astronauts, Gibson said it's difficult to see the building go, but that saving it for historical purposes will be too costly. Sure. I question the legitimacy of this building's use. If it was so valuable for what they were doing, why didn't they just preserve it? They preserved everything else except for this, though.
Yeah, I don't see the. I agree. I don't see the point. I mean, why do you have to knock it down? Just make it a museum or something, right?
Right. I mean, imagine if they looked at, if the Egyptians looked at today, looked at the pyramids. I don't see the purposes and decided they
Right.
were just going to come with a bulldozer and a wrecking ball and just tear down the pyramids. That's so stupid.
I don't get it.
Yeah. All right, this one is from space.com. Elon Musk unveils SpaceX's new Starship plans for private trips to the moon, Mars, and beyond. Elon Musk has a Starship, and one day he expects it will help SpaceX reach other worlds. Standing beneath a towering Starship Mk1, a prototype of SpaceX's massive reusable launch system, Musk laid out his plan for interplanetary travel at the company's South Texas site here on Saturday, September 28th, the 11th anniversary of the first successful orbital launch of SpaceX's first rocket, the Falcon 1. The new version of the Starship will be able to carry up to 100 people to the moon, Mars, and other destinations in space and or around Earth, he said. It will stand 387 feet tall and be completely reusable with quick turnarounds. This is the rocket that will launch the billionaire Japanese entrepreneur Yasuko Mizawa and a handful of artists on a trip around the moon in the 2020s. SpaceX unveiled that Planet Space tourist trip last year. This is, I think, the most inspiring thing I've ever seen, Musk told a crowd of about 200 SpaceX employees, guests, and reporters at the company's site near Boca Chica Village, just outside Brownsville. Wow, what an incredible job by such a great team to build this incredible vehicle. I'm so proud to work with such a great team. Musk later thanked Mizawa for his support. The billionaire has contributed an unspecified amount to SpaceX to aid Starship's development. Musk has long said that the main goal of SpaceX since its founding in 2002 has been to help make humanity a multi-planet species. The company has developed reusable Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, as well as reusable Dragon cargo capsules and a new Crew Dragon ship for astronauts. It has launch pads in Florida, California, and now Boca Chica, where the company broke ground on its test site in 2014. But Mars, Musk has said, has remained the true objective. This is the fastest path to self-sustaining city on Mars, he said on Saturday night, referring to the Starship Super Heavy architecture. SpaceX's Starship concept has undergone a kind of rocket evolution in the 3 years since Musk first unveiled it to the world in September 2016 at the International Astronautical Union meeting in Mexico. At that meeting, Musk unveiled what he called the Interplanetary Transport System, or ITS, for Mars colonization. The ITS called for a fully reusable spacecraft and booster that would stand 400 feet high when assembled. Its first stage would have a 42 next generation Raptor engines, and the booster would be 40 feet wide. Wow. The spacecraft would have 9 Raptors. SpaceX Falcon rockets have 9 Merlin engines on their first stage. Falcon Heavy first stages have 27 Merlins. Wow. Musk updated the design in 2017, calling it the Big Falcon rocket, or BFR for short. That plan called for a launch system that would stand 348 feet tall and 30 feet wide. Its booster would have 31 Raptor engines, while spacecraft is atop it would have 6. This is interesting because all the research that we've looked at and that I know of personally says that Mars is not livable, right? Because it doesn't have a way to protect itself from the radiation pouring down on it, because it already lost its shield. So
It's too
what would be
cold.
say that again?
It's too cold.
Yeah, that's the other point, right? It's too cold. What would be the purpose of actually living up there? Now, what they have discovered last week, at least what was been reported, is that there's a swishy substance under the surface. So they're suggesting that there's a liquid underneath the surface. How far down it goes, we don't really know. They said it could be at least 12 miles. 12 miles is a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, just for drilling oil, I mean, you're talking expending vast amount of resources just to pump oil out of the ground. If you're talking about going up to Mars and pumping water out of the ground, you're talking about something that may not be sustainable. I mean, once the water comes up and you have all that radiation pouring down on top of it, I mean, what's to say that the water wouldn't be toxic?
Well, I know one thing they talked about was essentially doing what we unintentionally doing here, like releasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. I don't know how long that would take though, but like terraforming Mars, or like, you know, releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, that would essentially create an atmosphere somewhat similar to Earth's and provide some protection. I don't know how long terraforming will take though. That seems like something that'll take generations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm more interested in the technology that trying to get there will produce the secondary technology. I mean, right now I'm not all that interested in going up into space, but I'm sure all the innovations there, you know, the technological innovations they're coming up with, you know, a lot of this is going to produce a lot of secondary technologies that I think will be really interesting.
Well, one of the articles that we looked at maybe earlier in the year talked about radiation, right? And some of the surface level contamination that people would face, right? But they were really pointing to white people or Caucasian people, because they lack melanin in their skin. They wouldn't be able to absorb a lot of the UV rays that would be coming in.
Okay.
And what that means is that, and I forget which article it was that we covered, but it showed that Black people's bone density was something, you know, significantly greater than that of Europeans or Caucasians. And because of that, because of the genetic superiority of Africans or melanated people, it would be more feasible to send Black people into space because they would be able to sustain themselves longer. Because they've been on, you know, coming out of the continent, they've been able to sustain themselves under massive levels of heat
Right.
from the sun. So for all these generations and thousands of years, Europeans, when they came to the continent, weren't able to survive more than a few months, if not a few years, right? So to say all that, I say this, that Black people in space exploration could be a very viable market, because in the same way that, you know, Europeans weren't able to manage slavery on their own, they outsourced it to well, they didn't outsource it, but they basically left Africans to do the labor, enforced. On top of that, just want to make that clear for all the pundits in the audience. You may see very viable opportunities for melanated people in space because of this very condition. The flaws that they found and the effects that they found when sending people out into space is herpes on some of these astronauts, as well as brain deterioration. So their brain basically turned into like a like a yolk from an egg. Basically, it started to deteriorate.
Really?
Yeah, because it was so the lack of gravity and some of the exposure up there was actually affecting them.
What, the herpes is what, from their immune system failing or something?
I guess people going up there
Must be
raw.
from Ah, no,
People up
I
in
think what it is,
it,
that's crazy.
well,
It might
people
be because
Mhm.
it might be because they're for whatever reason in space, your immune system might become depressed, and so you can have like a cold sore. You know, a large percentage of people have like you know, have had a cold sore in their life. That means you have the herpes simplex virus type 1, I think. So, and this happens in old people. You know, when you get like a senior citizen, that's why some people get the zoster virus to get that. That's because, you know, that's just reactivation of the herpes virus in their system. So,
I mean, that could be plausible, but you know, you don't know what goes on up there because we don't have any visualization, man. I mean, I can only imagine.
That's true. You said they are
people up there boning each other, man.
They probably are. You're probably right.
I mean, you imagine you're trying to put the latex on, it keeps floating away, man. You like, screw it,
right.
Man. I'm gonna go at this all the way, man.
Right.
You know, you only live once, YOLO, right? Out in space, so.
Yeah.
Crazy. Let me read this last article, then we'll open it up for discussion, man. All right, this is from physics.org. Planet 9 could be a primordial black hole. New research suggests. The hypothetical planet 9, assumed to be lurking somewhere in the outskirts of our solar system, may not be a planet at all. A new study published September 24th on the RxEve preprint server suggests that the mysterious and still undiscovered object might be a primordial black hole. Primordial black holes, PBHs, are old and relatively small black holes that emerged soon after the Big Bang. They are thought to have been formed as a result of density fluctuations in the very early universe. It is believed that PBHs with the lowest mass have likely evaporated. However, those with larger masses may still exist, evaporating at the present epoch, even though they have never been never directly observed. Astronomers Jacob Schultz of Durham University and James Unwin of University of Illinois at Chicago assumed that PBHs could reside even closer to us than we think. In a recently published paper, they pondered the possibility that the elusive Planet 9, theorized to be orbiting the sun at a distance between 300 and 1,000 atomic units, could be such an old and compact black hole. Explaining their intriguing hypothesis, the researchers focus on two unsolved gravitational anomalies of similar mass. Anomalous orbits of trans-Neptunian objects, TNOs, and an excess in microlensing events. What is interesting is that both events are due to objects with massive estimated to be between 0.5 and 20 Earth masses. Wow. The anomalies of TNO orbits are assumed to be triggered by a new gravitational source in the outer solar system. While it is widely accepted that this source could be a free-floating planet, Schultz and Unwin argue that PBH scenario is not unreasonable and should be taken into account. Capture a free-floating planet is a leading explanation for the origin of Planet 9, and we show that the probability of capturing a PBH instead is comparable, the astronomers wrote in the paper. However, it could be difficult to confirm this theory, as such hypothetical PBH with a mass of around 5 Earth masses and a radius of about 5 centimeters would have a Hawking temperature of approximately 0.004 Kelvin, I think, making it colder than the cosmic microwave background, CMB. Therefore, the power radiated by a typical PBH alone is minuscule, which makes it hard to detect. In order to overcome this obstacle, the authors of the paper propose to search for annihilation signals from the dark matter microhalo around a PHB. Such a dark matter halo, if annihilating, is thought to be able to provide a powerful signal that could be identified by observations. Hence, the astronomers suggest dedicated searches for moving sources in X-rays, gamma rays, and other high-energy cosmic rays, which could provide more evidence supporting the PHB hypothesis. This is interesting. We covered black holes about a week or so ago, and that there's a possibility that there's some such thing called a white hole.
Huh.
And
Never heard of that.
well, we think in in manosphere terms that might mean swirling because of the Milky Way. The sisters must love that.
Right.
Send me up there immediately. Get away from you.
Right. Got more resources up there.
Oh yeah, you dominated.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Damn, I lost the article for the teleportation. Damn, I don't even know where it is now. Yeah, I honestly don't know what this is. But yeah, we'll just open it up, man, for Q&A or just general dialogue.
So teleportation. How? I would love to read that article. I can't wrap my head around how that would actually work.
Quantum entanglement.
Damn, I got to read about that.
So we covered an article back in the summertime, myself, Nagone 11, and Lionel, about a university, or I think it was in China. Yeah, they were able to do the first preliminary trials of teleportation through a diamond. And they were able to move matter through a diamond at in real time.
Matter through a diamond?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they've been able to do that through just the diamond. I don't know how big the diamond was, but they were successful at doing it. This was in 2019. So you factor in, I think the Chinese have built this big telescope that was able to beam matter up and back down. United States government and Russia have been working on teleportation for quite some time now. I don't know how long they've been working on it for, but they haven't really released any sort of release notes or white papers. At least to my knowledge, we haven't read anything like that. But they been. So you're talking about beam me up, Scotty. They're like really talking about beam me up, Scotty.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, but you can actually get into quantum development. I was at IBM a month or so ago on one of our meetups, and they showed the power of quantum computing. And quantum computing is very specific. It's everything times two, or not times two. Give me everything beyond the scale of two. I think it's exponential beyond that. So it's not like a regular computer where it you can run Windows on it. This is actually doing mathematical calculations in a way that most modern computers can't even do. And these are very early iterations of it.
Wow. Yeah, I got to read about that. Quantum entanglement.
Yeah, quantum entanglement is some ill stuff, man.
It's crazy how stuff you saw in Star Trek, we started to do it. It's like,
well, they thought of it, right? The tricoder was basically what Steve Jobs envisioned of what would be the iPhone today.
Right.
Max, what was it? Not Max Payne. Maxwell Smart.
Yeah.
Get Smart. That show. I think he had a watch that did multiple things. Well, that would be considered the Apple Watch or a Samsung Galaxy Watch.
Mm-hmm. Then we got AI on the way. So I mean,
AI's here. AI's here.
Yeah. It's here, but it's not. I know you still got some implementing to do and stuff. So I mean, that's And then, of course, the internet. I mean, you can search anything. I know they used to do that. They'd be like, computer, find me so-and-so. And we can do that now. Siri, find me so-and-so, you know?
Well, right. And it's all based on data, right? So that's why data science and big data analysis, big data engineering is so important.
Right.
Curating all this data, you think about the amount of data that just flows through the manosphere. What are people watching? What are people liking? What are they downrating? What are they flagging for some of the haters? You know, what's most frequently commented on?
Right.
You know, and plus what the geolocation is of said content creator. So you got about 8 pieces of data just off the rip that is going to be valuable to a lot of advertising companies like Bevel, you know, vehicle companies like or transportation companies like Lyft and Uber. They want that data too. They want those demographics, and they see the super chats going in. So that also would denote that there's a high sense of value here because of the amount of super chats that are going in. So now you have 10 pieces of data that could be actually curated for exportation to a company for aggregation.
Right. You know what? You're right. I mean, AI, like you said, AI is. I mean, Siri, that's AI, right? What's the little what are the things called? The Google, the little voice things you can talk to and turn music up and turn lights
Google
on.
Home.
Yeah, Google Home. So I mean, shit is already here.
It's been here for quite some time.
It's implemented. I mean, it's so embedded in your daily life. You don't even realize it.
Yeah.
It's
Even
everywhere.
Yeah, even your airports, most of your major airports use some form of are starting to use some form of machine learning now to determine the traffic.
Right.
I saw a Saab of Sweden, not the car company, but the aerospace company, Saab, a military company. They have a radar tower that could be propped up by a pickup truck, if not a 18-wheeler truck. You basically have a truck pull up and this big tower would erect itself up and have all of these high visibility cameras on there, high definition cameras, and the actual radar control station would be somewhere far away, and probably in another country, maybe on another continent. And they can actually collect all this data from the amount of flights coming in and so on and so forth. So you don't need this big radar tower that you see at most airports now. That's because of the union. That's the only reason you have that there. But the technology is so advanced, they can actually just throw up a radar tower just off the back of a truck, extend it up 20 or 30 feet.
And don't they do it with like cities now, like the traffic light system, isn't it? AI can like analyze, like, okay, traffic's gonna be increased in this area, so this is gonna be a shorter red light or a longer red light.
That would be machine learning. That would be machine learning, not exactly artificial intelligence, right? So they collect the data based on what the surveyors were able to capture, right? So the little black rope that goes across the road, sometimes you see that cars drive over, that's collecting the data.
Okay, gotcha.
That will determine the traffic light functionality. But there are systems in place that could be leveraged based off of Google Maps and Waze or TomTom and Garmin. So vehicles at 5 o'clock increases twofold. So that means the traffic lights need to function at the same rate.
Right.
But what happens from a cybersecurity standpoint is that traffic light system, that traffic management system could be compromised because it's connected to a grid too, right? It has to collect all this data from Google Maps and all these other services. What happens when you have a bad guy fill that what we call data poisoning to that system? So now the traffic lights will go offline or inadvertently go green at the same time and cause a collision in an intersection. That means your first responders, your ambulance and firefighters and law enforcement can't respond because there's too much traffic backed up, and therefore you have complete grid shutdown across the country.
You're in cybersecurity, right?
I am.
So, question. I don't know if you get how much detail you go into. How far behind are you guys? Like, I mean, are you guys like keeping pace with like the cyber terrorist, or I don't know if that's the right name for them, or is the technology too advancing? Is advancing too fast that y'all really can't come up with enough security measures?
Well, the bad guys are using artificial intelligence themselves.
Right.
They're using, botnets.
Wow.
So that's the way they're attacking. So now we have to leverage our artificial intelligence too to actually keep up with the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your bad guys usually stay actors if at that level. But usually you do have cyber criminal organizations as well that will work for profit. I think we covered an article before about Saudi Arabia looking for a doomsday sort of malware to attack Iran.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you saw some years ago, back in 07, 08 or something like that, where you had the Stuxnet virus against Iran. Their nuclear facilities were shut down, but that was due to the fact that the United States and Israel was able to get into the supply chain operation and know every single motor and actuator and solenoid that was used in their nuclear facilities and compromise it, come up with a enough code written in a patch and launch and send it to Iran, and Iranians would download the patches, whatever it was, and load it into their system, and then shut down their whole entire nuclear operation and blow it up in their face.
Damn, that's crazy.
That's a multi-million-dollar operation. That's not something that's some guy sitting in their mom's basement thinking of. This is lots of engineers, lots of developers, lots of bad people or good people with good with bad intentions, because someone's driving that operation. But that's what we call a nation state attack. So what happens if you attack them? They're gonna attack you too. Most 99% of the hospitals in the United States are vulnerable to a cyber attack. All you have to do is take their PHI offline, and it's game over.
Right. Wow.
Game over. Now, those other nation states don't have to worry too much about that because they haven't not integrated their systems, their medical systems, in the same way that the United States has. So if their systems go offline, they could always go back to pen and paper. Try that in the United States major hospital, going back to pen and paper. That would be like going back to the Stone Age. They're just not equipped to handle something like that.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Everything's digital, electronic. Order simple meds. Yeah. Most doctors probably won't have a prescription pad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And have you ever done a show about telemedicine?
We did cover that several times. We did cover that several times. We actually had a whole healthcare hangout a few weeks ago. Most of Dr. Phoenix and Super Triz and a couple other guys, man, who work in the healthcare field, actually on here, and they spoke vividly about this. That there's a need for more Black men in nursing, but you also have to come with some form of computer science or information systems to back that up as a minor.
Right.
Because you need more nurse informatics or informaticians, and then you also need data scientists. So data science is going to be important because most Black people, especially Black men, don't go to the hospital, don't have frequent visits to the hospital. So what happens here is they tend to have preventative diseases and issues that should have been addressed before, but only happens at the later end of their symptoms, right?
Yeah.
Right. So then they use the ER as a treatment
primary
center.
Care.
Yes, primary care treatment center, and that should not be the case, right? So now the idea is, how do you gather all this data about Black males and leverage that data to create a faster response and more preventative treatments. but you can utilize telemedicine for that very reason, because every nigga got an iPhone. He just got to have it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he doesn't have good healthcare, but he has an iPhone though.
Right.
Think about the priorities.
iPhone 10, no, iPhone 11 Plus now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Every dude got a Louis Vuitton belt, and every dude got some J's on their feet, but they don't got good healthcare. They don't have insurance.
That's crazy.
Right. But yeah, I think that a lot of opportunities can come out of that telemedicine. What was your idea behind it?
Well, it was just about like I think the biggest thing, especially with certain specialties, is there's a long wait time for people who need access to certain specialists, and telemedicine is a ideal way to where you can shorten down that wait time. Because really with telemedicine, you can actually streamline the process of seeing your doctor or your provider.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like something that I've been really interested in. I'm trying to learn more and more about telemedicine, how you can apply that, in like a private practice setting.
Yeah, I think because a lot of places don't have a lot of hospitals are shutting down because they can't afford to stay open due to the rising ER costs, right?
Right.
People go to the ER, but then they don't actually pay the bill. You think about an ambulance ride is $1,100 now.
Yeah. Right.
So how do you leverage that technology so that you can create a sort of Uber or Lyft ride to the doctor without
Right.
actually leveraging the ambulance, right? So you do it at 1/4 of the cost, and you put the ambulances out of business.
Yeah. Have you heard of like Teladoc, WebMD, like these essentially telemedicine companies?
I have.
Yeah, so I mean that's one. See, so they've done that with primary care and stuff like that. So like for your routine stuff like cold like symptoms, or minor injuries and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing. But I was really interested in how you can expand that, because there are definitely some opportunities in other areas of medicine.
Yeah, including cannabis, right? So the legalization of cannabis could be used to treat a variety of issues that are common every day, right? And
very true. Yeah, that's very true.
I know some Black people self-medicate with cannabis, but there's a lot of there's a lot of medicinal uses for it, including the liquidization of it, right? So the oils and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. For like seizures and stuff, there's been I think that's pretty good evidence that's a good epileptic medication. I think there's ongoing research. I'm not sure how strong the research is, but I think there's ongoing research in like different type of behavioral health conditions like anxiety, maybe even PTSD. So potentially, and then chronic pain is another one that they're trying to do more and more, that they're doing more research on. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think the cultivation aspect is profitable. The distribution of it is going to be profitable. The branding of it is going to be profitable. And just the overall security of it, because that stuff has to be protected, just like any other pharmaceutical drug as well. That has to be protected as well. So you're going to need a lot of brothers from the military who understand security of guarding facilities and things like that, and running supply chain protections as well can actually come out of that. So
yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it's a major industry in California. It's an $8 billion industry of 29 just in 2019 alone. So you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry that Black people don't even have 1% of.
Wow, that's crazy.
So we talked about social equity before, social equity programs that could actually that are actually in place to counter some of the or to make up for the drug law policies that affected and disproportionately affected Black males, right?
Right.
That gives them first position and a seat at the table of the legalization of cannabis in urban areas. So if you had a criminal record because of that, because of these drug law policies, then you would be first in line and first in position to actually take advantage of some of these cannabis businesses in these urban areas to have a monopoly on, because the idea is to keep, the idea at least is allegedly to keep white business owners from coming in and taking over in predominantly Black areas.
Right.
Right, because they can't benefit from the drug laws and benefit from the decriminalization aspect of it.
You know, and I heard that was what some of these like cigarette companies. That's kind of what they were trying to corner the market on. I don't think they can, but I know they were trying to corner some of the cannabis market and stuff like that. But it's probably too diverse even for them.
No, I mean they got billions of dollars, right? You know, Newport and Corona, you know, big beverage brands and stuff like that.
Right.
They're the ones who have the money to go into it, but Black people don't have the money immediately sitting down or sitting and waiting to get involved in it. So the idea is to keep them out as much as possible in these urban areas, because it's just unethical to actually have them in there. I know the girl from the lady from Sex and the City, I think her name's Cynthia Nixon, was one of the biggest advocates of that being a form of reparations back to that Black men who have been disproportionately affected by these policies.
Okay, yeah, I think I heard about that. Right.
Yeah, so she's been a staunch advocate about that in her political campaign. And you have Negroes out here who are basically arguing against her. She shouldn't be able to talk about this and this and that. And what are you really arguing about? Because you ain't out there campaigning for it either.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So
she was the one running for mayor of New York City, right?
I don't know if it was mayor or Senate.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. It wasn't mayor. It was Senate, I think, because she was running against Cuomo.
Yeah, that's a governor's position.
Yeah, governor. That's what it was. You're right.
Right. And those are the areas that we need to be getting into.
Yeah.
You can leverage a lot of the big data, right? All these Black people who smoke it, these Black people who've been using it for all these years. How many years have they been using it for? What are the effects that it's had on them? What are the strands that they used?
Right.
Research behind all of this stuff that can just go into that. Just from a research standpoint, it's profitable.
That's girl. Yeah.
Put all that data into a data lake. Leverage the machine learning. The machine learning aspect will pull and gather all this data for you, curate it, and then say, this is based on data that's been gathered. These are the criteria that are available that you can look at from an analysis standpoint.
Right.
So you have 40 million, 50 million Black people in this country. You have a lot of data that's been generated.
Absolutely.
Right. And we read an article before about I think cannabis and autism and Asperger's. And I don't even know if they call it Asperger's anymore. I don't know what the actual new clinical term is for Asperger's, but basically you can actually there's a possibility to use cannabis to actually correct or prevent some areas of dysfunction in autism.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't know how legit it is, but it's it's there, right? So the possibilities are there, right? It could be dependent on the strand, it could be dependent on how it's consumed, but the possibilities are there. Maybe Antonio Brown could have used it at some point.
Nah, I think he's a lost cause. You'd have to catch him when he was a kid or something. Mm-hmm. It's too late now.
Yeah, he should have invested into that. Many of these athletes and whatnot, man, should have had their own.
Rappers.
Yeah, rappers too. I mean, all these guys smoking on camera, but they haven't made any investments, man.
Exactly. I think Snoop did though. I think Snoop has a few strands and stuff. He's
Yeah,
personal.
yeah, he's like the only one I could think of that has been involved in the cannabis business. I don't
Mike
know.
Tyson. Mike Tyson is another one.
Yeah, but he's not a rapper though, right? He's a boxer.
Right.
But he could actually use it. You know, you get all the blows to the head. You think about how maybe cannabis could be used in that area, right?
Right. Exactly, with CTE and all that type of
Yeah,
stuff. Parkinson's.
yeah, cancer research as well.
Right.
Or I should say, cancer-based prescriptions. You know, to address some of the early prevention of signs of cancer, ovarian-based cancer, and you know, just regular cancer. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think Dennis Rodman has major investments in cannabis as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see if anybody's in the queue. No one is in the queue. I'm surprised no one joined tonight, besides yourself. But thank you for joining the panel, man. If you weren't up here, I'd probably do it by myself.
No, I appreciate if you let me on.
Yeah, definitely, man. Always feel welcome to come back up here.
Okay, I will.
What do you do in healthcare again?
I'm a physician.
Oh, you're a physician.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
I was always well, my dad's a pediatrician, so my dad's a physician too, but I was always into science and stuff like that. So that was always kind of like my stronger field. And I was initially thinking about like architecture, but I was like, I'm better in the sciences than I am in math. So started leaning more towards you know, what jobs I could do in the science field. And my dad kind of like, you know, pushed me a little bit towards considering medical field, and went to college, and then I ended up majoring in biology, minoring in chemistry. So I just, you know, after that I went to medical school and kind of just went down that path.
Was it D1, D4?
No, I went to a D3 school, a small school. I didn't want to go to like a big school or anything like that, like one of these big D1 schools. So yeah, I went to a small school. They kind of hurt you a little bit, like when you kind of get into medical school, because of the kind of the format of the teaching. It wasn't as much standardized question. It was more like essay type testing. But I mean, you know, you gotta adapt.
But you do save a lot of money in the process, right?
But it was I went to a private school, so it was actually relatively expensive. I mean, I had a scholarship, so I didn't have to I didn't end up not owing too much money.
Okay.
And then I did the I applied for the Army's health profession scholarship. So Army paid for medical school. So so I'm currently active duty now, just paying back my time. So
what branch were you in?
Army.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of guys in our live streams, man, have been in the military, man, and gone that route. So it seems to be a very viable prospect.
Oh yeah, you can definitely, if you play it right, if you go into it, you know, with the right mindset, you can definitely use it to kind of just jumpstart your career. So the Army definitely has the, like I said, if you approach it right, it definitely has a lot of pathways to kind of boost your career, stuff like that. So
now, if you could do it all over again, what would be the alternative career?
I'd probably go the business route, because I mean, even now I'm thinking just the way medicine is, it's kind of restrictive. It's really just like it's just filled with so much administrative burden. Kind of going down the business route would have been probably what I would have ended up going to if I had to do it again.
MBA coming out of the military?
Probably, because I mean, I think just the way my family is, I probably would have done it like the official way, college, then get an MBA, and then but I think eventually just an entrepreneur route, whereas it's not necessarily so much formal, but finding a niche, a needed, some type of need in society, and open up a business to kind of support that. I think that's where everything is kind of heading towards. Take advantage of whatever needs the society needs, and monetizing that. That's kind of where I'm kind of thinking even now, despite being in the medical field. So.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot more brothers get into like medical assistant, other areas of operational medicine.
Yeah, it's the healthcare field. I mean, if you really dig into it, you'll be shocked like how many different opportunities in healthcare. I mean, you can do everything from even like being a radiology technician or a technologist. I mean, that's like a 18-month to 2-year program like out of high school, and you come out doing pretty. I mean, you could probably come out making like 30,000. Right out of high school, or 2 years out of high school, which is and then it's a lot of room for advancement going down that route. You could go from radiology technician, CT, MRI, ultrasound tech. You got then of course, like you were saying, MSAs. You got, but that's probably gonna go away with automation though. No, because I mean, you still need like as a physician, you still gonna need like your like a med tech or something like that to kind of assist you in the hospital, like physically assist you doing certain like procedures and stuff like that.
The way how I see it is that unless the hospital has been advanced already, unless they're in the top 20, they're probably not going to automate immediately, unless they get some kind of grant or something. But most of your lower tier institutions are going to stay that way for quite some time, because they just don't. It's just a priority thing, right? It would be nice to automate this, and that, but we just don't have the resources, right? We got to determine, going forward, whether or not this is going to be viable investment, right? So I might be able to find, an Indian that's going to come in and work for half the wage of an American, and that means, from an automation standpoint, I don't have to spend that money. Automation is not cheap. It's actually relatively expensive, and a developer is going to cost you 80 to 100 grand.
Gotcha.
Right. So you factor in, well, for a radiologist, radiologist, or any of these sort of roles, what you're paying the radiologist might be 30 grand, and the developer might be 120 grand a year. You might be able to hold out for 3 to 5 years or something like that, beyond what the major institutions have already implemented. So that's where I'm seeing it go. So, but then thank you all for joining us, man. Please hit the like button if you have not already done so. Share the stream, and hit that notification bell so you go to the updates from the Black Brain Trust. Also, as an FYI, we still do IT mentorship. So if you want to get into IT and need some coaching, or you want some mentorship, we can actually do that. You're trying to transition from one IT role to the next, we can actually help you out with that. Just drop your email or state what it is that you're looking to do after the live stream is over, and in the comment section, and one of us will get back to you. If not, just follow up on with us on the next stream. And with that being said, peace and shalom to everyone.